was posted or something. Almost live. It's kind of working. I don't know.
It,
Hit him. What you
we
got?
are we live?
I think so. Are you alive?
I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. If we're really alive, then here we go. Oh my
Are
gosh.
you alive? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we were just about to talk about,
A bunch of things.
a bunch
I
of
don't
things.
know. I was just gonna go fly off the handle, but yeah, we're checking in today. What is today? Our regular Wednesday, NLP
Wednesday check-in,
psychology. Yeah.
or yeah, whatever it turns out to be. When if anybody wants to know anything, we know everything about everything except the things we don't know.
There you go. And that's true most of the times, except when it's not.
Yeah, and if it was, it wouldn't be if it wasn't, you
So
know.
what are those? Those are confusion patterns, right?
Actually, yes, that's a really good thing to do if you're actually working on somebody with hypnosis. You can use uh, you can go back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth, and the mind doesn't like the loop, and it's trying to connect the loop together, and you just keep on going, and sooner or later, that's with anomalies too. Basically using words that uh, can't fit in a wheelbarrow. So basically,
I don't think everybody understands words that
yeah,
can't
I
fit,
know
fit in the word.
we were really going to talk about that today anyway. So
Well,
let's
you're there. You might as well just finish it.
well, basically, when you're using confusion patterns, people are trying to figure out what you're saying. I could go on like, yesterday before that, I didn't even know what we were going to talk about. But then this morning before yesterday, and it actually is not yes before that, but then now, since we're here, we ought to talk about what we're going to talk about, which we didn't talk about, what we could talk about. But if we didn't talk about that, we probably wasn't going to talk about it anyway. So let's talk about something that is relevant to everyone there. And I know you might believe it's relevant and you might not believe it's relevant, but it's relevant to someone unless it's not. And if it was, it would be relevant, wouldn't it?
There you have it. Did
There
anybody
you
get?
go. That's kind of a confusion going, what the heck is this guy saying? And then you say, isn't that right? You start doing
So what good use would that be for? Right?
Actually, that would be good to get them confused and then actually go into whatever they came to you for. After you get them kind of in that situation, you wanted to be able to think more clearly, right? Right.
So if somebody basically is stuck in a loop and you throw a confusion pattern at them, like if anybody's stuck in any type of loop, right? Throw a bunch of stuff at them, and then confusion patterns is just one of the ways to think about it. You do not want not to think about that, right?
Right.
So and then your mind is whatever you were focused on that you could be stuck with would be like, wait, now I got to figure out what the hell he just said, and then now you're off on a different.
Right. But before, really, most of the time before you go in a hypnosis situation, when they'll come in and you'll ask them what they're there for, you know, and if they're there for whatever, you want them to make sure, even if they're in a confusion pattern, that you're getting what they've come for. Like if they come for more confidence, you could be confident in this area, right? Right. And you get them in a yes set and then compliance when just look into the future. Maybe this is future pacing. Look into the future with the newfound belief in yourself. When you're in that situation with your friend next time, you'll be able to handle it better, wouldn't you?
That
Yes.
makes sense,
And
right?
yeah, that makes sense, right?
Just keep nodding.
Yeah. So
So let's
we're
get back on topic.
back on topic today. Actually, we're talking about it is kind of like this the confusion. We're talking about words. When people say words to you or me or anyone, we have trust in those words. We believe they're going to do what they say. No,
Or maybe it means something different to you than the person that said it.
right, it could be, and that's where we could throw the four agreements in here just a little bit there with don't assume, because when we assume, we get in trouble a lot of times. So instead of assuming something from somebody, ask them to clarify what they mean. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? That's the universal answer to getting clarity. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Till you find out the answer. Now, what we were talking before we got on this and all this extra silliness is we were talking about when people give you their word, okay? When people give you a word and you trust this person, you usually believe they're going to do what they say. And when they don't, you go, well, you said you were going to do that. Why didn't that happen? Now, do they have an excuse? Are they, are they just not
Whose fault is it?
that? Yeah. And is there a fault? Now, whose fault it is there a fault? And the thing is, if it happens once, okay, usually you can let it slide. But if it happens again, you're going, here's a pattern. And it happens again, okay, then we're going, I don't know. But yet they come and they say, no, no, oh, if it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for that, if only I got, had to stay, I had to go. Sometimes I don't know if what they say is so. So what we got to do, we got to figure out. This is where sometimes in business we don't we give people extra chances because we have a good heart. We want them, they come to us and we believe what they say. They're gonna really do what they say. And when it doesn't happen, that's the question of the day: is what do you do when somebody in business or even in just regular life without business tells you something and they don't come through with what their word was?
So, so basically, little bit of a backstory. I don't know if you guys been following me, but anyway, I had a DJ that come to me years ago, and then they weren't getting any work, and they wanted to go work for somebody else, and that person wasn't hiring, and I was like, hey, look, I'll hire you. So what I did was I showed everybody how great this person was by making video and pictures and promoting and emails and all this stuff, and then that person that he wanted to work for in the beginning started coming back around. And it was like, okay, well, I mean, not that you can't go work for somebody else, but at least, stick to the shows that you promised to do for me, right? So that didn't happen. He ended up leaving me and then leaving me high and dry. To me, it felt like 11 shows. I still think it's 11 shows. He says it's like two or three, but how many shows are acceptable anyway? None, zero. So anyway, with that in mind, 2 years that now pass, and then he comes and apologizes because this other person he went to go work for is a narcissist, and if you don't understand what that is, I got a whole channel on all that. And then he goes, "Oh man, I guess you were right. I'm not going to make any more gigs because he keeps hiring younger people so he can pay them less, and I'm not getting any raises, and I keep getting jerked around." So yeah, that kind of thing. Like that's the short of it, right? The skinny. And then he was like, "Well, I want to apologize. If we could work together, that'd be great." And then he gave me a gig. Well, he hired an offering of a photo booth gig, right? So it was some money coming into the company, and I was like, well, okay, well maybe he, kind of learned his lesson or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'll hire you back on, and I gave him two or three shows, and those we've only gotten to the first show of two or three that I have on them, and then a month ago, because I pay out in advance to my DJs because as soon as I get the money, I just give them that because I know they're good on their word, right? So it's just like, well, he had hit me up and said he had a death in the family, and he was asking for some money because he had to buy airplane tickets or whatever the case may be, and I was like, I don't know. Do I want to? And then I get all these, sobbing text messages that are like, "Hey man, I'll do the best I can for you. I'll do it, or, I'm really kind of stuck. Can you help me out? And then I'll do a great job for you." Okay, so I advanced them. I don't know, two gigs. So what happened was the first gig was coming up, and then he had text me. Normally with our company, it's a 2 hour before the start of the show time, right? So if you're starting at 10, you got to be there at 8, whatever it is, because that's how my contracts go out, and tell that to my staff, and that's what it is. And the night before, he's texted me going, "Hey, can I get there an hour before?" No, in the contract it says 2 hours. That means you got to be there 2 hours. Okay, I'll plan to be there. I think it was 9 a.m. So I get there at 9 a.m. because a manager making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. This guy shows up at 9:30. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? I gave you money in advance. I hired you back on. I gave you some shows. And then I get the whole, well, whenever I ever let you down. And I'm like, well, I can list that off if you want. Well, every time I've done a show for you, I've done great. Okay, but you told me last night you'd be here at 9. It's now 9:30. And then it wasn't like I'm apologizing. It was just like how many things can I come up with to like not be stuck to my word or what I said. And I was like, well, man, do what you say and say what you mean. So I guess there's a little joke to be had here. I was hypnotized into hiring him back, and I don't know how that happened. So we have 2 or 3 shows more, and then if there's not, we're gonna have to sit down and have another conversation, of course. And if mind shift
Oh, one
hasn't
one
happened,
also big point here, one big point too is there was a contract, not only a verbal contract, verbally he said he was going to be there and he said he's going to do a good job and you even talked about it and he said I'm going to make sure I'm 2 hours early like I'm supposed to by contract. Now he's breaking contract not only with his word, but he's breaking your contract with the people because this is what you stated. So not only is he putting his reputation online, he's putting your company's reputation online. Okay. So the question still goes back to, when somebody gives you the word, it shouldn't matter because their words, their bond. And if you can't understand, and he's making an excuse that it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter if he's late. Yes, it does. Because if you go to my company, if you're late 2 or 3 times, you're at the bottom of my list. I mean, I used to take it personally. So when people were late to my gigs, and I mean, at one time I was, hiring just tons of people. Almost every single day we had people out and would do 30 or 40 people a week. And what they would do is if they were late, because we guarantee that we're going to be on time, we're going to do this. And shoot, we're only putting people out for 2 to 4 hours. And that, if you're late, you've already,
yeah,
that,
that's like half your
yeah,
shift. But anyway, that's like the skinny of it. But the whole point of this podcast or of us is like if you see a pattern, it's probably not going to change, right? Like unless somebody has like a big mental shift or somebody got to be at threshold, right? Like they got to see that there's something wrong and they have to understand that they have to make a change, or and they're the only ones that can make the change. It's just not going to be the same old thing over and over again because now because it's happened once, now I'm hypersensitive to anything that this person says because I'm like, well, this has already happened. I see us going down the same path again. I'm gonna have to put a stop to this right now. Like, and another thing too, if you own a company and if you have somebody who's not doing, what you expect from everybody else, it's only going to spread like a virus, right? Oh, this person got away with it. Well, what else can I do? Like, oh, this person's getting away with it. Like,
yeah,
so,
I know that one. Basically, why doesn't he have to show up on time and we have to show up on time? Well, that's just a given. You follow the rules of the company or you're not in the company. I mean, literally on mine, uh, like I said, I was less lenient.
so
Now, the point is still is when do you draw the line on less lenient and stuff? We were actually talking about a metaphor before we even got on here about a scorpion and a frog. Now there's this river, and this scorpion wants to go to the other side, and he says to the frog, says, "Frog, frog, bring me to the other side, and I just need to get to the other side, and I don't want to drown. So, will you bring me to the other side?" The frog says, "No, no, no. The scorpions sting frogs, and they die." And he says, "No, no, I would die too. Now, if I did that to you, if I sting you, we're both going to die. So, I won't sting you. I just need to get to the other side. Would you do that for me?" And he says, "Yeah, okay, okay, I'll do it." And then, the scorpion gets on the frog's back in the middle of the river. He goes and stings the frog, and the frog's dying. He says, "Why did you sting me? You said you wasn't going to." He says, "Well, I'm a scorpion. That's what scorpions do.
There's a couple different ways you can think about it, right? Have you ever gotten a cat to bark? They just don't do that, do they?
I ain't know a cat dog.
Not without AI anyway.
It
Uh,
could be bilingual.
and then I think well, and then also I don't know. I was explaining. Everybody's heard of the bull in a china shop, right? The bull doesn't understand what's going on. It's just in there doing what bulls do. Like everything around them's all destroyed, right? Like, but they don't understand. Like it's like, oh, I'm just here. So you got to keep that in mind because everybody has their own frame or map of the world, right? Like, so it's up to you to figure out how they're placing their reality and whether or not that works for you. So if me personally, like when someone says they apologize or appreciation is pretty one of my high values, right? Like if someone's not appreciating me, then I'm not going to keep them around, especially when I'm, advancing somebody money and then they promise they're going to do something. Well, the appreciation value comes through if they actually do what they're going to say. And then instead of, not doing what they're saying and then pointing to some other excuse or something else other than I'm sorry it won't happen again, like or I've learned my lesson or I'm going to have to, prepare better to make sure that I'm on time. It was none of that. It was, well, when have I ever done a bad job for you? Or, think of all the good things I've done for you. Like you said you were going to be there and you weren't there. Yeah, especially when we double confirmed the night before. Anyway, um, there's other things involved as far as that goes, but again, it's all about the framing. How does the person frame the situation? And
And
it,
let's go back to get the story straight. Is that this had happened like in different kind of scenarios two or three times before this. This isn't the first time. So if this was the first time, you could let something like that go ever. But if it's the third time, it was more than that. He had done. He did so many other.
I'm hypersensitive to it now,
Yeah.
so probably my leniency is zero at the moment.
Right.
And then okay, since we're talking about like language patterns and what people's mechanisms are, like I figured out what this person's mechanism is, right? The mechanism for him is like, oh, I had mentioned to him that he kind of screwed me over in the past, and then I was very forward about it. I was like, hey man, I'm just making sure this doesn't happen again. So his mechanism is sarcastic sympathy. Well, that's just a term I just created. So when we were at this event, the client had come up and they were explaining to this person, what they were looking to do. And but I couldn't hear it. I just saw that they were talking. So I went over to the guy and I was like, "Okay, well, what was the client saying? What needs to happen?" And he looked at me and he says, "Oh no, she was just saying she thought I was going to screw her over." So when he said that, it was kind of like he wanted me to bow down because I looked at him lesser. And instead of like bowing down, I doubled down. I was like, well, if you look like you're going to screw somebody over, maybe you should stop doing that. And then there was a couple anomalies that happened after that. Well, yeah, well, if everybody looks at you like you're going to screw them over, maybe you should stop doing that. And then I said, well, well, not everybody thinks that. Well, maybe it's the people you hang around. So I kept giving them like open-ended after open-ended. Hopefully you got the point. I don't know. If not, it's going to be really clear next time because we're going to have to sit down and talk about it to begin with. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And it's like congruence, right? Congruence is super important. Like you could tell if somebody's lying, based on their body actions, based on their actions, based on their words. Is it all in sync with each other, or is it not communicating properly? And that's pretty important in congruence when it comes to NLP or hypnosis, right? Like you can't get somebody into hypnosis if they say they want to go, but their body's saying it's not going to go, or their actions are different than what their words are saying. So congruence is super important. And then when you're a hypnotist and you have all these different patients, you become hypersensitive to different actions and how people act and how they react. And you know, it's important for you as a hypnotist to take different angles. If you're a one trick pony, it may work great with a lot of the times. But if you don't have different tools on your tool set, and it's kind of hard to explain what I mean by that, but we're just piece by piece explaining different psychology, principles, and then you could create your own as you go. Of course, follow somebody who's successful and then build off of that. But anyway,
One correction, and I hate to say this, but he didn't mean patients, he meant clients because we're
oh
not.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
clients. Yeah, clients.
So
Yeah.
it was just a slip of the, sometimes. But we hypnotists, we're not doctors and we don't uh prescribe you any drugs or anything like that. We're not either a psychiatrist either. So but yeah, everything you let's go back to the very basics. It's basically when you're dealing with anybody, not only business, you got to figure out if they're telling you the truth. And some people are actually don't even know they're lying when they lie, or this is their mode of operation. So if again, if they do it over and over and over again, and you expect something different, that's insanity. So if somebody's going to mess you over once and you give them another chance, okay, but they mess you over again and you give them another chance and they do it again, this is a motor operation. Now, the thing is, you have to figure out what your tolerance level here is. Because and if go back even off the subject for a second, a narcissist will do this and pound you down and kind of put it on you that it's your fault. That um I'm just doing the best I can. It's not my problem that it just doesn't work out. Like a covert narcissist might just blame everything on every single other person in the world, and it's not their fault. And the truth, it is their fault. So, and I'm just saying, some people, when you find that, you have to figure out what your next step is, because you got to save your company and save yourself. And you can be what do we, you know, lenient, but when I hate to say this, but here's where we always go back: a giver gives and a taker takes. Okay, this is almost where I end up a lot of times, because I'm a giver and you're a giver, and you want to help out the people around you. Yet a lot of times when you help out people too much, not that that's where you have to draw the line, is when the giver gives and a taker takes. A taker keeps on taking because that's what they do. But if the giver doesn't set the boundaries, he's got to figure out where he's going to set the boundaries. Is this what all the people out there that's listening? And the same with us, because we love to give, but we also hate it when people take advantage and they're not reciprocity. And that's
Yeah, and
not.
it's up to you to find out how
Yeah.
that works in your reality.
Yeah. So uh, when you're out there thinking about it, when you give people more than a couple, two, three chances, and they keep doing it, just kind of think maybe that's their mode of operation, and especially just be more hypersensitive to people who blame everything else on everyone else. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. Until somebody's willing to take responsibility for what they do, they're either uh, shifting blame, or they might not see it themselves, but basically the outsider can see. And when you find that out, you have to protect yourself from takers. Not that you can't be a giver, but when takers take more, or again, if they tell you lies. I was doing a little poem I wrote. A lie is a lie, no matter how big or small. When you tend to use one, you tend to use them all. Then people don't know whether to believe in you. So basically, after they do it, how do you gain that trust back? In at one point, I don't think you can. You know, how
Yeah.
do you keep on trusting? So I guess that's something to think about for everybody today. Is what and look around you. Are people lying to you? So protect yourselves. What's your thoughts, Scott?
That's pretty much all I had. I just wanted to get that off my chest, and then some people out there may not understand or take that as seriously. And if you could catch these things early, right, you could avoid problems. And I think that's the main thing with anybody that uses change work. It's about understanding your environment better so that you can avoid problems, right? I mean, everybody's going to have problems, but if you could give yourself less than somebody else, it'd be less to manage, right? I mean, there's enough problems out there. You don't need to be giving yourself extra ones.
That that's what you got to do is figure out how much you're giving and when it's you have to stop giving.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I think that's pretty much all the time I have for today. Glad I got that off my chest.
All right. Well, everybody be cool out there and be as happy as you can.